This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Greetings all, and thank you very much for joining me from wherever you are in the world. I hope you are doing it just great. In this episode of the show, I have a conversation with Laurie Luke to share with you. Laurie is a musician from Perth in Western Australia. I first had a conversation with him in 2019 when he launched his EP, titled Way Back When. It was one of those releases that I listened to well after the interview, and we have long since continued exchanging messages. Then I saw a confronting post on social media in July 2021 that explained a whole lot, but not everything, which is why I thought it would be a great idea to reconnect. It's a tale of misfortune and calamity, but also extraordinary courage and bravery. We cover a lot of ground in this conversation, from life-altering events to plenty of topics relating to our favourite subject, the music. Laurie has a new song. It's out now, and we're going to have a listen before we dive into the chat. It's a cracker, and it's titled Long Way Home. Let's go.
Now you're in the middle between stations. Major time got new revelation. With a heavy feeling under the bridge, blowing your mind. I'll be careful when I touch the sky.
What has the day held for you up to this point, mate? You work on all of that sort of stuff, or you've been working on the music instead, the real stuff?
I'm working on the real stuff. I've been unlucky and lucky. So after the accident and all that kind of stuff, I'm just on income protection at the moment. So just every day's recovery, so just chipping away at, trying to be a human being again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. Yeah, is that how it is at the moment? You're still effectively in like a mid to long term recovery mode.
Yeah. There's no real map with what I went through in terms of how to recover. It's not, it's not like a broken leg in 6 weeks and you're good to go. It's just, it's the Wizard of Oz,
Yeah, it sucks, dude. Yeah, I remember when it happened from afar, of course. You probably, whenever you posted about it, I certainly saw the first post that went up there, and I really felt for you both, to be honest with you, because, you had that, you articulated what happened to you both, and it just, do you believe in fate and destiny? Can I ask that question?
You'd kind of have to after that, wouldn't you?
It's not, yeah. For both of you to have to suffer that way is very unusual.
It is. And I've gone through it a lot of times, and they brought my family in to say goodbye, man. Like I was on my way out,
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was kind of, fuck it, it's in the song anyway. I was between radio stations. Yeah. And I know and remember making a decision to come back this way.
Holy shit. Oh, wow, you've had that whole experience.
Yeah, and it's with me all day, every day, and it kind of pops in and lets me know it's still here, It's how do I put it? I think it obviously it's different for everybody, but it's always the same. It's got the same. It's made up of the same stuff.
And you remember making a decision that no, I've got things to do.
I'm trying to it's like when a new movie comes out, trying to tell you, mate, what it's about without fucking the movie up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came back, man. Got stuff to do, so that's what I'm doing.
I should probably fill the listeners in on what we're talking about. So, I'll hand it over to you if it's okay on that front there, because of course I don't have all of the detail. But can you, in as much or as little detail as you want, can you tell us what you went through, and indeed your wife or girlfriend went through as well?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it was, I think it was a Friday or Saturday night. I'm not too sure. So Morgan was heading out to meet a friend. Just a normal kind of end of the week thing. And I kissed her goodbye and said, have a good night. And as far as I was aware, she jumped in an Uber and kind of did her thing. And then so I was just relaxing at home, and I had a phone call maybe an hour later from one of her friends. And I just, even before I picked up the phone, I knew something was wrong. And sure enough, something was very wrong. So at that point, forgive me if I kind of vague out and stuff like that.
Of course, mate. No, go for it. No worries whatsoever.
So, yeah, I remember the first phone call, and she said, Morgan never turned up, and which kind of set alarm bells off, because it was only half an hour away from the house. So we're an hour in, she hasn't arrived. The thought process kind of kicks into all the horrible things that go wrong. Yeah. So between me and Beck, her friend, we were, a million phone calls trying to figure out what's happened. And I ended up receiving a phone call. I'm not too sure if it was a firefighter or an ambulance driver. It was some emergency service. And told me, she'd been in a hit and run car accident, basically out the front of the pub that she was going to, like a stone throw, literally. And and what had happened, and this is still kind of ongoing, but some guy just cut through a red light, in a four-way kind of intersection and hit her side of the Uber side on. And yeah, so she was rushed to hospital and broken pelvis and fractured ribs and, you know, the works. So I jumped in my car and headed down to the hospital straight away. And, kind of in emergency waiting, and I eventually got pulled through. And I guess like a lot of people, I don't really enjoy hospitals. It's not a place you go to kind of hang out and have fun, I guess. But anyway, so, you know, all these things are going on. I walk in and she's on the stretcher and it's not looking good. And I just standing next to her, and I remember just feeling faint. And I've, since what happened to me, I've realised I've had this kind of issue throughout my life. But I'd always kind of pushed it away. So anyway, I knew what was about to happen. So I said, oh, look, I'm really sorry, but I think I'm going to pass out. So I got on my knees because this had happened before. So it's, you know, I thought, well, I'm not going to fall as far. And then I woke up, basically, long story short, a week later after being in a coma and having a brain hemorrhage and having a craniotomy, which is basically where they kind of, so the brain hemorrhage was going on, and obviously within your skull, if there's nowhere for the blood to escape, my head was just blowing up and slowly killing me. So this is the thing, right place, right time, you know, lucky, unlucky, I don't know. They cut basically from here down the back of my head, over my ear and top of my ear here. Pulled the skin back, drilled into the bone, took it out like a broken tile on a house, and kind of got in there and fixed it. Put my skull back in, put a few screws in it, and stapled it up with 50-odd staples, and gave me a dodgy haircut, and here I am.
It's hard to know what to make of, you know, divine providence in these moments, isn't it? Because the way from what I understand, of course, I've been following your socials. We've been talking to each other a bit on there, and just what you said then. Yeah. If, you know, it's very unfortunate for Morgan to have to go through what she went through, but perhaps if she didn't, then it might not have been addressed in the way and as quickly as, you know, it might have been. I lost my father to brain cancer, and I saw how quickly that took him.
Oh, sorry, man.
You know, oh no, it's fine, brother. God, it was years ago now, so over 10 years ago now. But I just remember anything to do with the brain, mate. I mean, it was almost instant from when he was diagnosed. He was always fairly vague, and I think to your point, mate, he was living with something his entire life potentially. Yeah, very aloof. You know, you'd be talking to him in a conversation, you'd start looking over here or what have you, and you just went, "Oh, that's him," you know. But it's anything to do with the brain. If it's not caught in the right moment, from the experience with my father, you're gone, mate. The only thing that kept him alive was just constant bloody operations and just keeping my mother sane. You know, because she didn't want to, you know, and so there is, you know, I'm a Christian in that respect, in that I am a Christian, I should say, but in the respect that I apply that to a situation like this, I think God does have a plan. And I hope that there was a plan there, that despite the suffering, you know, it does mean that you've both got very long journeys ahead, and it's just one of those mountains that you had to climb in order to see the vast vista of your life that lays before you. Yeah,
look, there's I'm finally getting to a point now where you can see some things, and it gives me hope that as you go along in the recovery, that it's almost for the best in some ways, as crazy as that sounds. So within that story, when that happened, I didn't know any of this because of, you know, obviously what happened. I actually checked myself out of the hospital at one point.
Mm.
And I have no recollection. I signed papers. So I passed out, and then they ran some tests or whatnot. And because I was so anxious about everything that was going on, I just get to a point in hospital where I just need to get outside with fresh air and some trees, or just, something that's not white, bright light, and just, and there was actually a doctor there who saved my life by saying, hang on, I think you should stay and I want to run a couple more tests. So the first test came through, and I think, actually I've read the reports just recently, and they were saying, oh, look, he's fallen, cracked his head, and had a seizure or whatever it was that was happening. We'll do a few more investigations. So between that point and there, I was kind of out the door, signed my papers, and he kind of brought me back in. Whatever happened. And if I'd walked off, I would have, who knows what, this might not have happened at all, this conversation,
How's Morgan going?
Yeah, she's doing really well. Recovered amazingly and is playing gigs better than ever,
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah, you're both born musicians. That's the thing. I've spoken to both, for the listeners' benefit. Okay, Morgan is Morgan Jonell. I've spoken to Morgan for the podcast. Both you two are outstanding musicians, and it's just, it's so interesting that you found each other in life as life partners, and then you've had this experience together. It's like you were destined to experience all of these, just have these experiences together and to sort of be able to lean on each other through them. Very similar, both musicians, both had life-threatening illnesses and things occur like that. You're the only two people that I sort of know that have had that happen to you. So, but that's really cool to hear that she's back on her feet, and the music can take the priority again, because, man, God knows we need the music these days after, especially you guys out west of the COVID lockdowns and all the rest of it. So has the recovery process, has it been all about the recovery, or have you been able to sort of take some time out during that too and focus on this wonderful craftsmanship, crafting the music that you love doing?
Oh, look, the music is instrumental, it's pun intended, in me literally rewiring my brain. When I kind of came to, and looking back, I was kind of in denial, but obviously it's like having your computer, if it's frozen and you're just hitting buttons. Yeah, that's where nothing is computing. But I kind of woke up and I was basically paralyzed down this side. I couldn't hold a cup of water or anything. I had to learn how to walk, and I had slurred speech. I couldn't talk. But I was freaking about not playing guitar, man. Yeah, that was getting to me a lot. And when I eventually was able to put some headphones in and listen to music, that was rough. It didn't make sense when I listened to music. I've talked to a couple of friends about this, and the best way I can explain it would be if, the picture of, I don't know, pick a painting, right? So if music were a painting, and everyone looks and says, okay, we all agree that music is a painting, that's the Mona Lisa, right? And when everyone looks at the painting, that's their version of listening to music. When I kind of came to me, if I looked at that painting, it looked like someone had cut it up into 1,000 pieces and thrown it in the air, and that's what music sounded like to me. It'd be like in a Pro Tools session if you went through all the tracks and just knocked them all out of phase and then hit play. That's what it sounded like. And I was going back to my bread and butter of music, you know, like Jimi Hendrix and stuff that's in my DNA.
Yeah.
And none of it made any sense. I couldn't follow a 4/4 time or anything. So getting back to the original point, relearning music that's my therapy, man. It's a cliche. Music is medicine, but in my case, it's literal.
I think for people like us, without it, we suffer terribly. I can't.
Yeah.
I know I could never ever live without it. And look, throughout my life, I've suffered through terrible anxiety. It might sound crazy given I've been a broadcaster and a public speaking, or the dog going crazy next door. Do public speaking with Toastmasters and all of this sort of stuff. But that's the reason why I did it, because I suffered terrible anxiety. I just went through a phase there where it starts shaking for no reason. But one of the key things that led me through that was performance. So it was so weird in that I could barely speak in front of 5 people. But then I could get up and perform in front of 100, no dramas whatsoever, and talk in between. You know, it was such a strange thing. And if it wasn't for music, music is a salvation. It's long been that, hasn't it? You know.
It's got to be the oldest form of communication ever. You know. And it could be so simple. You know, just tapping your leg and some sticks together, whatever you need.
Indeed, yeah, just whatever works out. But I mean, look, for us, rock music, metal, whatever you want to call it, stuff with guitars in it, that's the stuff that is our bread and butter. Yeah, that's the stuff that, you know, like with your equipment around there, you can pick it up and you're basically conjuring things out of thin air. Yeah. And, you know, I've always marveled at that. I've never taken that for granted, actually, about what we do as musicians, which is that you got a fretboard and it's set up in chromatic sequences, and you can sort of tune into those chromatic sequences. And it really just comes down to how much some people are blessed. You know, the Hendrixes and the Tash Sultanas, they seem to be able to pick up a bloody guitar and just, you know, not even practice. It just sort of out it goes. Van Halen, these sort of people. But yeah, it's still a mystery to me how we're able to just create music the way that we are. Sometimes we're not even thinking. That's oftentimes the best stuff that I've ever written. Haven't written stuff in a long time, I must confess, but it's just when you're in a flow, you sort of get into an energy flow. Do you find that as well?
Oh, that's exactly what it is. You're just kind of dialing into that, whatever that is, you know, and you've got to get out of the way of yourself.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. You know,
so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I never learned music properly. Like, I don't know how to read it. It was just the obsession with how that made me feel that, you know, I got to where I am. And having to do it twice makes me appreciate it more, you know.
So your ability to play guitar was effectively taken from you, and you had to use muscle memory maybe, or something equivalent to that, whatever it might be. Your motor skills were just fine-tuned, so you had to go through, you know, learning B bar chords. You had to do that stuff.
And I could, like, they brought a small guitar into the hospital for me, and I, you know, even just trying to cop an A chord or E or something, it was rough, man. It wasn't nice. I would have been, I reckon the equivalent would have been like a fresh learner, maybe 6 months into playing guitar. That's where I was at.
Holy shit. Yeah, wow. Yeah. So where are you at now, though? Is it back up to where you were? I mean, you're a very accomplished player, so you're sort of near to where you were?
I think so. Yeah. Some days.
Is it different? Is it different, though? Are you playing it differently? Like, do you notice that you're doing things differently from before now?
Yeah, there's a few little bits and pieces in there that feel a bit different, and phrasings and just rhythms mainly. It's a strange one to explain, because I already had the knowledge and the skill, but I had to figure out how to access it again, because nothing was working, you know. So it was, it was. I think I talked about it before. It's David Bowie in the Labyrinth with stairs upside down and sideways, and Yeah, you just got to suss
Nice
it out.
analogy. I was just in the supermarket and they were playing Magic Dance. I couldn't believe it. I was in Coles and they're playing Magic Dance over the speakers. And I grew up with Labyrinth, and the bridal waltz at my wife and my wedding was As the World Falls Down. So, yeah, man, that's a great reference.
Unreal. Yeah, brilliant movie.
Great. I mean, Bowie pretty much wrote the book, though, didn't he? I mean, he has his foot in everything, you know.
So many firsts, you know.
Yeah, people don't realise it was like 1972 when he's coming out with stuff that sounds like it could come out now. It's being ripped off now, and you're like, wow, look at that. So it's Velvet Underground, all of that stuff. It just sort of gets rehashed. But you got to go back to the original, don't you, to get the source, the inspiration, like you talk about with Jimmy.
Absolutely, and you know, and then you're on the train straight to blues, you know.
Well, that's the Rosetta Stone right there, isn't it? Because I mean, once you're into blues, you can take it anywhere. And Yeah, and which blues artists in particular do you lean into?
Oh man, there's a lot. I love Lightning Hopkins, Muddy Waters, Rory Gallagher.
Yes, I listened to him the other night with Jack Bruce. Yeah.
His version of Catfish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard that with his band Taste.
No, I haven't. I'll check it out though. Yeah.
Oh man, like guitar tone. That's just I'm pretty sure it's a live version. That guy had it. You know.
Yeah, it's crazy I love YouTube for that reason. You can waste a lot of time on it, but when you tune into music like we are, and you go, okay, I'm going to discover some stuff. You get into Gary Moore. You watch the entire Thin Lizzy performance on the Sydney Opera House steps, and you just go, does it get better than that? I think that Thin Lizzy performance on the steps of the Opera House in 1976 or whatever it was is probably the greatest gig that was ever recorded.
Wow, I've seen the clip.
Yeah, check out Phil Lynott is just. I mean, you look at Scotty Gorham and the drummer whose name I can never remember, but Scotty Gorham, the other guitarist, who I've had a chat to him, and a lovely fella, you know, the American guy in the group. He was always the American fella in the group. But then Gary Moore on the other side, you just see Scotty anchoring what Gary's doing, because Gary's like a boxer on stage. You know, he's got it all going on. And he's just wrestling the notes out of his Les Paul. And he's different to Rory Gallagher, but they managed to achieve something remarkably similar. And you listen to guys at that tone, don't you? And you just think, oh, man, it's in the knuckles, it's in the fingers, it's in the wrist.
Same thing. It's not about the gear. It's in your fingers, you know.
Yeah. I've long said that. Yeah, you got to throw it. If you need the gear to achieve your sound, you're not doing it right. You know, there's only one The Edge. Everybody else has just got to, you know.
Watching that. What was that doco with him and
Jack Black and Dingo? Yeah.
Jack White.
Jack Black. Got Jack White and Jimmy Page. I look, you can sort of see their contrasting styles, can't you? And I've got to say, I found The Edge quite inspiring after watching that, because I do play guitar as well, and I'm not a really good guitarist. I play guitar like a bass player, so a lot of bar chords, occasional. You know, I do the lead in "Wish You Were Here," for example. You know
cool.
You know, I'll do that, but I won't solo. Just never my thing. But The Edge sort of inspired me to go out and get one of those pods. And I just never spent time with it, so I ended up selling it a year or two later.
Oh, man, we've all been there with gear. Yeah.
Gear is a shocker, isn't it? I've given most of it to my kids' school because it was just sitting around the house, and I don't gig enough anymore. You know, COVID happened, and I'm in my mid-40s these days, and I just do not have the energy to gig every single weekend, twice, you know, Friday and Saturday night.
Oh, it's a lot of work, and like people don't realise what it takes for them to see the end product of a band playing music in front of them. They got no idea.
Your new tune is called "Long Way Home."
It is.
Is that right? Yeah. Because I saw the socials update there. You're getting it mastered. Is it mastered or mixed at Studios 301?
Mastered. I actually had Darren Middleton from Powderfinger mix it.
Well, he knows what he's doing.
Oh man, it sounds amazing. Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah,
he did such an amazing job. Yeah, it was unreal. I'm so stoked with it. Yeah, I'm really proud of it.
So I listened to Way Back When. You know, I've shared this with you. I listened to Way Back When long after our interview cycle completed.
Oh, that's man. That's
Yeah. Yeah, and for people listening, look, I don't like Matchbox 20 at all, to be honest with you. I almost bought their bass rig from the bass player down in Sydney way back in the mid-2000s, mid-90s it was, if you can believe it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, but I liken your music to a much better version of what they do in that it's musical. It's like if you add their sense of melody, but then if you get all the musicianship and the sense of fun with the arrangements that you've got going on. And I think I mentioned too a bit of Faith No More I heard in there too.
Yeah, so Mr. Bungle or something, you know?
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Bungle. Yeah, I don't like what Mr. Bungle. What are your thoughts on what Mr. Bungle are doing these days, though?
To be honest, I've probably fallen off the dial with that one. I haven't kept up with them, you know?
Yeah.
I
well, they got Scott Ian from Anthrax. They're basically a metal band these days. And look, I'm all about metal, but Mr. Bungle weren't metal. You couldn't describe them as that. And when they lost a lot of the weirdos in the band. I don't know how else to describe it, but
I'd be interested to hear it now, you know?
It's like old school thrash, like I wouldn't like you know what Municipal Waste or DRI sound like. It reminds me a lot of that. It's just sort of straight down the line, yelly. Yeah. Dave Lombardo plays drums and he does the thrash thing probably better than anybody on the drums. Let's face it. You know, the Slayer drummer. But I love metal and I love Morbid Angel. I love all of these groups, so that's why I listen to them. If I wanted to hear more, I don't really want to hear Mr. Bungle sound like a metal band, to be quite frank. But that's my view.
Maybe you know, in a weird way, it's kind of cool because they're almost unexpected with their music. So you wouldn't be expecting a metal record, you know. Maybe it's that kind of thing. And the next one will be a synth pop album. Who knows?
I hope so. I hope so. I think you're right. Yeah. Apparently, when I say the new stuff, it's actually the old stuff. It's the stuff they did when they were at school. So that's why it sounds like straight ahead thrash. They've just
okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What's the fellow who was the singer of the Dillinger Escape Plan? Got a mental blank. He's new material. I have to Google it now. I can't just sort of let that one go through the keeper. But his new stuff. Escape Plan singer. Greg Puciato. Yeah, I've had a couple of chats to him, and his stuff to me sounds like where I was hoping Mr. Bungle now would go toward.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, right.
You know, left of centre, but very melodic and kind of goes synth pop. And the next song is full on like Napalm Death hardcore sort of, you know, it's a grindcore sort of thing, you know. So
the gauntlet.
Yeah. But I just like what we're exchanging messages. I just want people to sort of hear your guitar playing. If that's cool, like no pressure whatsoever. Don't do it if you don't want. But if you want to noodle away and give us a bit of a jam on something, go for it.
There we go.
Sweet. Mate, I just wanted people to get some idea of your technique because we've talked about it a bit, and I love it. It's the meeting point in, if I could make this observation just in the moment between Billy Corgan at his very best before he became a fruitcake and Jimmy.
Oh, that's huge, man.
That's what I'm getting. Yeah.
Both of those. Obviously, Jimmy's an amazing guitar player, but Billy Corgan is a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to him. He sort of lost the plot after the two albums. I mean, I didn't get into Gish or the earlier stuff, but the Siamese Dream and Melancholy. I thought the heavier stuff on Melancholy, like Love is Suicide, whatever that song's called, and Bodies and stuff. Bodies.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh, he could do it. I don't think I've said this on the podcast before, but yeah, he could definitely write killer alt metal. He could do it, but he just went, he do it, I don't like that because metalheads are bogans or whatever. It's like, dude, come on, give us a break. Just, everything he has done, to be honest with you, everything he's done since then has been garbage. And I've tried, believe me, I almost had I'm not going to say I had an opportunity to chat to him, but I was, the list comes through and you go, do you take it? You got to be nominated and then you've got to go through a process to talk to somebody like him. Yeah, he only wants to be with you talk to you if you've got an audience and all this sort of bullshit. Yeah, I think that's how it works. Whatever. But the point is, I didn't get to chat to him. But if I ever do chat to him, that's what I'd say to him. It's like you can write a killer alt metal tune. To me, he was grunge Judas Priest.
Yeah. His solos are pretty bloody good, man. And I love the production, everything about it.
Yeah, he just. I don't know what happened. He wrote Adore, and then I think I didn't even bother buying Adore. Somebody I knew had it back in the day, 98. And
I think
there's no guitars.
Yeah, his mum died, and I thought that album was kind of about her or something. Maybe it's something in that. I don't know. But I've heard I know you said it with the last one, but they've got another double album coming out or something, and they're saying it's Melancholy Part 2. I don't know, man. Like, I think there's a certain time period where you can, there's a magic there, and I don't know. I'm not a millionaire, but I imagine you get comfortable, and what's there to write about it if you're comfortable?
Yeah, Queen Shrike. If you follow them, they've gone back and tried to do the Operation Mindcrime thing now a couple of times again, and it never works. Just leave it. It's a moment in time. You can't recapture lightning in a jar. Just
you can't. And I felt the same about. I love Helmet, but their one, and they went back and even recorded on the same, I don't know, it was like an 8-track thing that they did on In the Meantime.
Yeah.
I can't remember which album it was. It was, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago now.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I'm a big fan of Helmet's early shit, right up to Betty, even after Toast.
Yeah, like bread and butter for me, man. Amazing band.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen them? Did you see them live back in the 90s? Not recently, but did you see them back then?
No, unfortunately not. I saw them come through. I think it was basically Page with with other musicians. I would absolutely love to see Stania behind him again,
I think he lives here these days, doesn't he? I know Pete Mengi lives. I bumped into him a couple of times in rehearsal studios.
I'm not too sure if Stania lives here. Come join my band.
Well, he was in the Mark of Cain. It's not out of the question.
I saw him in the Mark of Cain, and that was amazing.
Yeah, that was, I've got to say, one of the most brutal mosh pits, probably I'll go on record, the most brutal mosh pit I've ever been in, where I actually had to get out of it, was the Mark of Cain. That was just wrong. Yeah. It was worse than being at a footy match, being in a ruck underneath, playing rugby and being stepped on. It was, I lost my shoe. I need to find it later, but I could barely breathe. It was that bad.
Yeah. I saw them. Which tour was it? What's the one with the blue-grey cover? It's got Retaliate and all that kind of stuff.
Not good with the Mark of Cain. I know Ill at Ease, of course, and Battle Sick, but the one afterwards,
Yeah, that album's phenomenal, man. That's amazing. But I think the worst one for me, talking about mosh pits, was She Had at the Amplifier Bar in Perth. I was wearing, I think, Dunlop Volleys or Chuck Taylors or whatever.
Yeah.
That real shit thin sole, and someone had dropped a beer stubby, the neck, you'd use guitar or whatever for slide playing. I was kind of jumping up and down, and that thing just went straight through the sole into the foot. And obviously in the middle of the mosh pit, trying to get on one leg and pull glass out of your foot is pretty much impossible. I think So every time I got my leg up, someone would push me, so I'd have to come back down and it would push it up through the foot even more. And that was my most brutal moment in a mosh pit, I think.
Yeah, I haven't bothered in decades I think maybe the Mark of Cain. I had a moment of all bands. I don't even like them, but I went along to a Korn gig, and I was up the front and I felt the crowd crush.
Yeah,
and the panic,
and the air goes missing.
And you smell, it's weird, you smell vomit and bad breath. It's so crazy. All I kept thinking, and it's crazy, like where your mind goes to in those moments. The Liverpool football disaster at Sheffield Wednesday's ground in 1989 or 1990. Yeah, it sort of went to there, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. But I mean, rock concerts are notorious for this shit. There's Ross Kilder and Fred Durst and bloody Limp Bizkit at the big day out.
Yeah. I just have flashbacks of a few gigs I've played, and the band room being underneath the mosh pit and watching it flex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. No, they're not for me, that's for sure. I mean, these days it's all fairly I think most of the venues around town, most of the gigs I go to have like 50 people at them. So, and we're all old these days, so we'll just sit on the side and drink our beer and applaud, very loudly when they're done one song until they get to the next one. But it's just occasionally I'll go to a bigger gig. Like the last big gig I went to was Corrosion of Conformity, and that was outstanding. But again, we're all, it's a 22-year-old isn't going to get into Corrosion of Conformity, to be honest with you, and they're the ones that mosh us. I'm not saying we're old, but you know what I mean. We're just sort of at a point now where something can seriously break. So,
I'm getting in a car and going for a drive. So,
have you got? Is there a possibility of gigs on the horizon?
I'd love to play a gig. So I set myself some goals when I was laying in hospital, and the first one obviously was learn how to play this again, and then record the single that's coming out. So I play everything on that. I normally play everything like on Way Back When and the other couple of singles on Spotify. That's like I play all the drums and the bass and percussion, piano, blah, blah, blah. But on this one, I played drums on it as well. So I pushed it a little bit.
Oh, nice.
More. Yeah. But as far as getting back to gigging, I've just got to manage where I'm at. I still have a lot of issues with noise, just weird things, man. It's really hard to explain. And if there's too many things going on at once, the computer shuts down again and stuff like that. So I got to figure out if I'm going to do it, it'll be a hit and run, in and out,
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, no.
I'm dying to play live again. Like just to be able to do it. When after you've kind of laid in bed, just not being able to move for such a long time, and then working toward the opportunity again, like it's something you have to go through to be able to understand. It's like sex.
I can imagine.
That's the worst analogy ever. Coming out of a coma and being like, it's like sex.
Well, I mean, look, what you've been through is horrific, to be honest with you, and you've obviously had to be extremely resilient through that process. But I'm so glad for you and for Morgan as well that you. It sounds like as though you're coming out the other side of it. If I can say that, if I can make that observation,
it's like I'm a lot better than I was even 3-4 months ago. I was, so it's not linear, at all. It's sideways, backwards, loops, but kind of pushing forward,
Yeah, that's such a good point you make there about it not being linear. I don't think people understand that about recovery from something that affects your cognitive processes, that it's peaks and valleys, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's tough as well because it's you kind of blessed and cursed in a way because it's invisible. Like I have the biggest scar and dent in my head you can imagine, man. Luckily my hair grew back. but yeah, the cognitive side of it, like I can bump into people that, you know, oh, it's good to see you recovered and you're doing good, and, you know, it's all tied up in a nice little, with a bow on it, and away you go. But, you know, I understand the meaning behind it. They're well-meaning people, but
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
invisible disabilities in a way, you know. And I'm learning about it too. I was the same. I didn't know anything about brain hemorrhages and AVMs and seizures and invisible disability and chronic fatigue and everything, you know. Yeah, but that's life, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good way of putting it, mate. It's not a cliche when it's true, as far as I'm concerned, because it is life and shit happens. And what do you do? You can only deal with what's happened, mate. You can't, you know, there's two sides of the coin. Is you can crystal ball gaze, you can catastrophize, and you can hope for the best. Okay, but the reality is you can only actually deal with what the bloody hell's in front of you.
True, that's it, man. Yeah. And you can only do your best, you know.
How's the memory? Sorry if I'm probing too deep here, man. Tell me not to go any further. Yeah, it's
all good. Memory, it's weird. Certain things are good. I'm actually getting a lot of older memories just kind of popping in.
Yeah.
Short-term memories, bit shit house, but, you know, being a musician and kind of, you know, partying, maybe was always there, maybe not.
I've got that issue because I'm not saying I'm a big drinker, but yeah, I definitely go on binges occasionally, and I find that my memory's just rat shit for a week after that. Nothing ever happens, by the way. I usually just do it here and, you know, work on Adobe stuff or what have you, just getting things done. And I just noticed that when I haven't been drinking, my memory's almost crystal clear, really. But as soon as I go back to drinking, mate, it's fucked. Yeah, it's a catch-22, you know. Which all the good things in life are. Yeah, it's just everything in moderation. But what the hell is moderation? You know, to do things in moderation. It's like, well, because moderation is different for the individual, and you've got to experiment before you get to that process. But we've also, you know, we're all been alive long enough. We've all experienced clearly, you know, tragedy and disaster, and also the flip side of it, the enormous love like that I feel for my kids, this sort of thing. But we've all sort of captive to this experience that is life, and we've just tried to make the best of it as we can. And I mean, that's why I'm so grateful, and I'm sure you're going to feel the same way, and this is going to resonate, but we've got this love of music because I see a lot of people around me who have depression. They're upset with life. They get frustrated very easily. They don't have that. They haven't got something that's theirs, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I've always thought, this thing saved my life, man. And always saved my life. Like, you know, I grew up sitting in my room for 8 hours just playing and not being bored and then if I'm shitty or sad or whatever, I can come in and process it through 6 strings. You know, and some people might do it through football or fishing or whatever. It's all the same stuff. But if you kind of don't have any of that, that's horrible. But I always thought, they should definitely push music a lot more than what they do in school. And I think, you know, well, I won't get started on the education system, but
it's rat shit. All right, it's garbage.
Not there to educate you; it's there to chew you up and spit you out and get you ready for the workforce, you know, and blah blah blah. But having a musical instrument, it's so I can't even put it into words, man. It's like it's another arm. It's part of me, and I think. People do themselves a disservice if they're worried if they're too old to learn something and pick it up, and, you know, fuck that. Just pick it up and get into it, you know.
Yeah, I said the same thing for a long time now. I feel more guitars in young hands leads to less war.
Oh, can you imagine? Imagine turning up to war and we just have to jam it out.
Mate, when's the Long Way Home coming out? Has it got a release date yet?
It does. So my goal was to release it on the year anniversary of, you know, all that stuff that happened. And that's what I'm doing. So June 17th, which is a Friday, it will be out. And that's that weekend of, I would have put it out on the 19th. That would have been, to the dot. But, you know what releases are like on a Friday. So we'll roll with that, and that's cool. And then we can celebrate being alive and kicking over the weekend.
Well, it's a magnificent accomplishment to have something to release after what you've been through. That's the key thing. There's just,
Thanks, man.
regardless of the date, mate, I mean, the fact that you can commemorate it, if I can use that expression, in this way. In other words, it didn't beat you. Here you are releasing music, what God put you on this earth to do. Look forward to hearing it, mate. And but more to the point, I look forward to hearing much more stuff from you because, like I said, mate, up top, I think the vista of your life just lays ahead before you, and that means plenty more music.
Thanks, brother.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the extremely courageous Laurie Luke. I haven't had too many conversations like that one right there. Thanks so much, mate, for sharing your story. I truly appreciate it. If you like listening to my podcast, you may also like to read my book, Scars and Guitars, Volume 1. It is now available. Go across to scarsandguitars.com, click the link in the banner, and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. I've got a bit more to say about the book in the moment, but before I let you go, I've got to say goodbye. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until next time, it is a very good bye for now.
This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
If you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very, very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.